I'm an acupuncturist, you know, a Chinese medical practitioner. I'm a musician. I'm beginning to be a music producer in my own way, just really loving that part of things. I am an artist in a couple different forms. I love starting businesses. I'm a community-minded person, and yeah, and I'm a very passionate, loving human, and I'm really glad to be here on this planet. And I just have a lot of energy too, you know, a lot of energy to be me.
Give us an idea of what the flow of your travel has been like over the past year or so.
Let's see, the past year. Well, I just came back from Costa Rica, which was really wonderful. That was a Random Rab show, a live show. We played a dawn set at Envision Festival outside of Uvita, Costa Rica. So we just took, basically it was a 1-week trip down to San Francisco, flew down there, went to a friend's place, stayed in the mountains, had a really nice time, got to experience some of the Costa Rican countryside, the ocean, surfing, and then played this beautiful set of music in which I experienced the most amazing group hug I've ever seen in my life during the set. It's about 300 people. It was really profound and beautiful, and there was a lot of love there. And that was just kind of the last little trip I took. Over the past year, I went on tour with Rab. We did a fall tour last year for an album that he just produced, that I was featured on, and we co-wrote 5 of the tracks on the album, and recorded it all live in a studio, and then went out to the world with that CD for about 5 weeks, and traveled basically all across the country to 18 cities as a national act. And it was just Rab and myself, and we picked up another instrumentalist here or there, but primarily it was the 2 of us performing it live. Drove there. We had Alex as one of the person as our kind of tour guide, our tour manager, helping us facilitate, but we set up our own lights and set up our own sound, and everywhere we went it was just a big production for us, but it was really successful. We had a lot of amazing experiences there, met beautiful people, and got to experience the American culture, all over the place, and just being kind of nomadic, living in this really nice kind of RV tour bus that was really sweet for us, a little Prism, kind of like a time machine that took us all over the country, to these different parts of our culture. Really sweet, I loved it. In the past, Rab and I do a lot of festivals in the summer. My music career has taken me all over the place. Mostly I've been doing West Coast stuff, and then with Rab now it's been more, a lot of shows in Colorado. We've done a number of smaller tours, going into the Southwest, going into the Midwest, or at least to Colorado, Salt Lake City, and then in the summertime hitting the music festivals, really doing a number of them, like Lightning in a Bottle, Symbiosis. I try to get to Country Fair every year. I haven't played there with Rab, but it's another big festival I love, and there's just a growing population of this festival culture that just keeps drawing us out more and more, and it's creating this space for us to live in and travel to. And the Conscious Nomad concept, I think of the festivals as being a really kind of a clear representation of what that can be and what it is.
Tell us about some of the places or events that stand out in your mind as favorites and why they impacted you.
Well, I think, and this is relative to music festivals. I mean, there's obviously my life has lots of things that I love, and events that are very powerful. I think in the context of this interview and what you're doing, one of the things that stands out to me, and you were there, I was right in the front of the crowd, was Pyramid Lake at Symbiosis 2 years ago, for the Eclipse set, and it was just an incredible experience being out there in the desert, right there at Pyramid Lake with 10,000 people out there, and this incredible, solar system size event happening, with this eclipse, and being able to play music for the hour and a half that led up to the eclipse as the sun and moon are coming into this perfect union. And I mean, it was just absolutely mind-boggling. I mean, and to play the set, play the show, and have this thing happening, and then at the end of it have all these singing bowls. We had 12 singing bowls on stage. All of our friends were up there, and everybody's wearing black and white, so we had the whole penumbra thing, and Rab had this beautiful concept of sort of like the penumbra as the experience, that part of once the 2 bodies are aligned, this light comes out that you would never have seen otherwise. And so we had this 2 dancers, male and female, black and white, 12-minute walk to the center of the stage, all these little layers of the production that were really part of what made it super special. And then just having all of our friends, our family, this huge community out there supporting the music, and being there for that that truly epic event, stellar event, and then finishing the set through all of that, this sort of like the space of opening this vibration, and then everybody putting on their glasses and looking up at this eclipse and sharing that moment, and the howling and the feeling, the passion of wow, here we are, the desert. It was just totally incredible for me. One of those highlight moments for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that one up, because that is definitely one of the highlight moments for me as well.
Rab's film Visual Reality, there's a really nice piece that centered around that particular festival and that moment.
Well, a lot of people may idealize this kind of mobile lifestyle, and I always kind of like to point out the shadow side of anything. What are some of the negative aspects that you deal with? I'm sure many of them have to do with airports.
Yeah. Well, the hardest thing about airports is just air travel in general. Is just, as a musician, if you're not just doing a DJ thing where you're basically just DJing your own music or DJing tracks, whatever you're doing, then you come with your laptop, you come with your headphones and some cables, you got a backpack. That's not such a big deal. But bringing the live act, what we're doing is really taking the studio experience and bringing it to the stage. So we've got mixing boards, we've got microphones, we've got all the instruments and things. And so when you're traveling with air travel, it's like you have to size everything down into this certain weight restriction, a certain size restriction, only a certain amount of bags, because you can only spend so much money. It's tricky that way. So you bring a scale to the studio, and for the night before you travel, you're going through all your gear and making decisions. Rab and I are always looking at each other stuff like, you're bringing your stool? I'm like, well, I like my stool. Yeah, but come on, it's like my mom, looking at me like, yeah, we don't need that thing. So it's really great, but we work it out, and you always get a TSA, a little TSA informative note that says, yes, we dug through your bags, and everything's a little different when you get it, but generally we get through it pretty well. Our instruments I haven't damaged anything really. Everything gets beat up a little bit, but you don't lose things necessarily. I've done pretty well on that. But the bigger issue around travel for me is trying to maintain a presence here locally with my community, my family, with Cara, my house, the garden, and then the practice and being present, and being on the road. I can still do a lot of connectivity. I've got my phone, I've got my computer, I've got those things, but once you get onto the road, you're on tour, it's like it's just one thing to the next. It's kind of all building. It's very hard to stay connected, and I feel like with my friends and my community, that more people that are less nomadic in the sense that they stay local more, I oftentimes have to kind of do some emotional work with them to make sure that they understand that there's no loss of love, there's no change in our relationship. I'm just following my dreams and my passion, and if you want more of me, or you want to, our friendship needs more, if that's what you're feeling, then tell me that, make sure that I know so that I can, bring that to you. I don't like the thing that happens is that sort of like this emotional kind of wall can build up because it's like there's space, and so I'm always kind of trying to tend the local people, and my, Cara especially, she's gotten really good at it over many years of traveling, but music has definitely become kind of like my other mistress to her, and she's like, oh, you're going out with your other mistress tonight. Oh, well, I thought we were hanging out, so there's that challenge for sure. And then little projects, oh, you're gonna work on the house, you're gonna work on the garden, those things get pushed back a little bit, and then there's transition times, and in this lifestyle, a lot of all-nighters, so a lot of times, Rab and I go on tour and we just do this all-night thing, just like really max ourselves out for 4 or 5 days, come home, and it's like, all of our people are ready to hang out, but I'm exhausted, I need a couple days just to kind of get myself back together, and jumping in the clinic back the next day, and seeing 10, 12 patients all day long, the transition is a little rough. I do pretty well with it, but I definitely feel it, and getting older too, I'm like, geez, I gotta pace myself through all of it.
Right, enjoy it while you can. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
How was it that you began to tour and record with Rab? Is there some history there?
Good question. The other is, it's funny, in the late 90s, a group formed here in Ashland, and it was called El Circo. And you might remember from, I remember seeing you at those parties, right? Yeah. So El Circo was like a really interesting group of people, very creative. Kind of started with like fire dancing at the plaza, and I was playing drums for the live fire dancing, and we did these really cool solos where I would just take one drum and solo with a dancer, and we'd do this thing, and it got really nice. At the same time, Rab was developing a lot of his own music. He was just getting into producing music, and it was a really beautiful thing he did. It was very live, a live way of doing, produced music, and he would bring things in and out, through the different equipment that he had. And then we got linked up through that and started doing some shows with El Circo where he was doing the produced stuff and I was doing the live part of it, and we started to kind of feel a good synergy there. So then he and I did some shows in like 2000, 2001, and his first album, Epicycle, came out in 2001, and we played the CD release the CD release party together at the Ashland Armory in 2001. The cops came and the whole thing. It was a great night. Real high energy stuff back then, and I really had a blast. And then I didn't see Rab for a while. I went off to school and studied Chinese medicine and went to China and came back. And so Rab had moved to San Francisco, and he was doing his thing and working with Obscura and doing kind of a multi-layered approach. And I then got back into music when I got here. I didn't leave it all the way behind, but when I was in school, I just kept making music, but I wasn't involved in doing a lot of touring. I did a little bit here and there. But then when I got home, started our practice, then I started to develop more musical connections again and started a couple bands. I got in a band called Infusion here, a live band. We recorded an album together and produced it. I started a band called Trine, a trio, and played with a bunch of other artists like Gypsy Soul and other people. And then in 2009, I got a call from somebody from Evan Bartholomew, Blue Tech, and he was looking for a percussionist to come with him and do some shows. And so I got involved with him and did a show at Earth Dance, and he started a project called Satori Social, and we did a tour, 16 shows around the country with this thing Satori Social. It was Russ Liquid and Katrina Blackstone and Evan and myself, the four of us. So we did some air travel and we did some road travel, and it was a really beautiful time. And that was my kind of re-entry into festival culture and really into EDM culture, electronic music culture. And so the last show on that tour was Lightning in a Bottle, which Rab was also playing at. And I played the show with Satori Social, which was really nice, but I ended up seeing Rab there. And I saw him at the festival. I went to his set, and he played this song For My Corpse, which is really one of the famous songs. People always want that song. It's so beautiful. And it was a song that Kara and I had connected a lot of, like when we had a whole breakup, separated and got back together. And during that time, For My Corpse was really like a powerful song. It was a song that really was meaningful for us. And so Rab was playing that song, and we went up on stage, Kara and I, and hugged, and were there with Rab and just like thanked him like in a real way for the love in his music. And so I got to meet Alina, his partner, and she was pregnant with their child Dune at the time, and so we kind of reconnected. And when I went home, that was the end of the Satori tour, and that was the end of that project. It was 16 shows. Then it was like financially it wasn't working out, so just kind of we broke that one up, and everybody kind of went and did their own thing. And I just basically said to the universe, I said, I really want to play music with Rab again. I kind of would love to do that. And so I just put it out there, just in my mind, in my heart. And then about November, I got a Facebook post from Rab, or a message, and it was like, hey, Cedar, I got this gig, at the Fox Theater in March. It's a really big production. I'd love you to be a part of it. It's gonna be really sweet. Do you want to come and do it? And I was like, oh my God, absolutely, for sure. So we planned it, got it going, and then we played the show. It was the Infinity Cube. We had built this cube, and I got to I met Ilya Goldberg of Emancipator there. He was part of the show, and it came off really nice, and it was a great connection. And so that was the beginning. That was 3 years ago, March, and now we've just, since then we've done about 60 shows, and got back into it, the release album, and yeah, it's been really, really fantastic. But a long history, really. Just with some time in the middle where we didn't see each other much. We saw each other occasionally just through gatherings, local people that we both know, kind of thing.
So can you share a little bit about how you and Rab work together, both on the road and in the studio?
Yeah, happy to. It's a little different for everything, ultimately, Random Rab is Rab's project. And so I'm sort of like, an honorable guest to be a part of what he's doing. We do have, a way of working together where we have, for the Random Rab Live project, it's something that we have shared agreements about how we work things as far as who's responsible for what, and running all of our own sound. And we, it's a much bigger production that it takes the both of us to do it. And I'd say that, the synergy that we have is really good. It works really easily, like musically especially, the ideas are just very synchronistic, they're synergistic. It seems like whatever we do enhances the whole thing. And, it's easy, I guess, is the main thing. And that's why we do it, and that's why I think it's been so successful. It's just because it's so easy. It just naturally happens. Let's do it, And so that's kind of, in summation, how we work together, and why we work together maybe. But the how could be something like, on the road, we both like to really kind of go. You know, we're both like last man standing kind of people. You know what I mean? So we'll go all night long. We'll, you know, push through the next, you know, next adventure, drive the vehicle, 12 hours, get to the next thing, play the next show, set it all up, you know, take it all down, all that, and just keep bringing the same positive energy. You know what I mean?
It sounds like, in answer to one of the questions I asked earlier, one of the best things to have is stamina.
Yeah, stamina. I'd say both of us have that stamina, you know. It was really beautiful. My 40th birthday party, Rab was invited as a secret guest. Cara got him to come up, and so he came with his family, and he came and did a dawn set for me on my 40th birthday party. That was epic on the coast, you know, 35 people. I was gonna say, like in the studio, you know, like with the tracks that we've been working on, we go in the studio, and a lot of times it's just that we just start with something. Like I'll pick up one instrument and play that, or Rab will start with one part of a beat, or, you know, we'll do something, and we create this world that we start to shape, and we kind of create a whole space, like the track Rain on the World and Journey to the Eye of the Whale on the new album. Like we went down to the studio he was staying at, the Blue Lotus down in Santa Cruz, dropped in there for 4 days, and bam, those two tracks were almost done. You know, I mean, a lot of editing to finish them out, but the structure was there, all the instruments played, and, you know, something really beautiful came out of it. So it's kind of like dropping in for a long period of time where you really just focus in on the music at every level and create something really magical, you know.
So people are pretty much familiar with you playing percussion and providing support that way. How many other instruments do you play? How do you express yourself musically?
Well, you know, one of my favorite teachers, a mentor for me, was Joe Craven. I don't know if you know him. You know, great percussionist, incredible violinist, mandolinist, you know, phenomenal multi-instrumentalist. Inspired me a lot back in the 90s playing with Dave Grisman. And one of the things he told me was that, you know, music is really about whatever you bring to it. The instrument isn't important. It's the energy that you bring to it. That's why he can take a 2-minute beer cup solo and the crowd screaming their heads off, you know? Right. He's got his mouth in his beer cup and he's, you know, he's just incredible. And so I've taken that same kind of an approach to music. And just because I started with harmonica, I started with horns when I was in high school, piano, you know, those were the things that I started with, but then I didn't spark my passion for music until I found, you know, the drum and really West African music, and, you know, doing 10 years of deep study with West African music, you know, where we met kind of through that whole process, and performance, dance, and music, and really just deepening my role as a drummer and understanding music from the drumming, you know, perspective. And over the years, I've just put my energy into playing didge. I've, you know, been playing didge for 20 years, and I play a lot of didge. I love that instrument. I love guitar. I love to sing. I love to write songs. I love melody. I love bass. I can play a little bass, you know. But my primary instrument is drums, you know. And there's, of course, I studied drum kit here with Tom Stamper, you know. So I play the drum kit. I try to integrate all these different instruments, you know, studied Middle Eastern music and studied, you know, belly dance classes and belly dance music. And so I try to integrate those different things together. And so being a drummer, there's lots of instruments, you know, and to play congas with the conga feel, you know, with a Latin feel, it takes study, you know. So I studied 3 years with Simbo playing Afro-Cuban music, you know. So foundationally drums, but now I'm even at the point where anything is open. I love playing mandolin. I play silver flute. I've been, you know, working with Ableton and recording my own music, making my own tracks, you know, which is really exciting for me to be able to like actually play these instruments. I've got this new thing called a Zen tambour. It's like it's a round, kind of looks like a little spaceship, like a soft space saucer. It's a steel drum that's been cut out. It's a cutout, and it's really beautiful. It's in a Japanese scale, an akabono scale. It's really beautiful. So I love that for melody and rhythm together. Play with sticks or with my hands, and you create this really beautiful kind of bed of sound that's rhythmic and it's melodic, you know. And I think a lot of people have considered my drumming to be melodic. I'm a kind of a melodic drummer, you know. I like to really change the timbre. And playing with Rab, I've found that in deep moments, you know, in the deep, when the sun's just coming up, we've been playing for hours and people are deep with us, we're on this journey together, there's a place you get where you just can't miss a note. You just can't miss, everything is on. It's just, you've given yourself to the music and it's flowing through you in a way that you're almost just observing it, you know? And then there comes this refinement that starts to happen, where if I hit the drum right here at this point, it makes the sound, the timbre of the sound goes a little higher. It doesn't quite work. So I put my finger just half a centimeter forward and it makes the sound deeper, and that works in that song. So with each drum, is it the right drum, the right tuning for that note of that song, or that part, and then which part of the timbre, not just of the note, you know, but which part of the note, and then the placement of the beat. So there's so much in it that's, you know, that's beyond just drumming, but I definitely I'm a drummer, you know, I love it, and thinking from the rhythm place.
Well, you kind of answered this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway.
Overachiever.
For those who are out there that you know, that are thinking about, you know, how to take their music to the next level. Do you have a practice regimen at this point, or do you pretty much just rest on your raw talent at this point?
Raw talent. Oh man, I tell you, I mean, you know, I woodshedded for so many years, and you know, every day playing and playing and playing and playing to get my chops, you know. And now it's more maintenance rather than trying. I don't have to build them as much. I continue to push myself to try new things, but more now it's like I spend a lot more time in the studio, you know, doing recording sessions. I work with a lot of different artists. You know, they send me music. I record stuff, send it back to them. I work with Rab in the studio. I work on my own stuff in the studio. We do a lot of live shows. And, you know, I love taking a drum solo and becoming experimental in the middle of a set. It's a great moment. But I don't have like I don't sit and do like exercises like I used to. You know, I used to just sit with my sticks and just, you know, use a metronome. And I used to do that with West African music, just play pack-de-pack, pack-de-pack, pack-de-pack. I played it for 2 hours. Seriously, until my fingers were bleeding, you know, until I could play pack-de-pack perfectly no matter what anybody else did. You know what I mean? So I don't have to do that anymore. But I definitely need to keep the music flowing. And if I'm playing guitar, if I'm singing, if I'm playing flute, it all sort of does the same thing of sort of keeps me connected to that musical expression of myself, you know. So as long as I keep doing it, it seems like it all grows together, you know.
So, you know, being a musician myself, it sounds like what you're saying is that you put in a lot of time over the years to get your technique and your chops down, so that you can be at that point where you can tap in to your passion and the spirit of the music in the moment,
right,
and let it express itself freely without having to think about it too much.
Yeah, it's sort of like fundamentals, you know. It's like just get the basics down so that you can sort of stand on that platform of like, oh, okay, I know how it works. Like you have sort of free access to your tools. Then when you're expressing your art and using those tools, they're just right there for you, you know, and you can apply them in any kind of creative way to create a new aesthetic. But yeah, definitely, I think if you want to aspire to be a great musician, not that I'm a great musician, but if you want to aspire to be that, then practice, practice, practice. And then once you feel like you've done that and you worked with some master teachers and really got humbled in it, you know, to the point where you know what it means to grow, and you grow to a certain place, then get out there and express yourself, you know, and start getting experimental. But the most common pitfall I see with people who are just getting into music is that they'll just start to pick up an instrument and they're like, they have some raw talent and they just want to mess around, you know. And like, you know, the classic story is the drum circle, you know. Oh man, digga, 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 look at all this cool stuff I'm doing, you know. Yeah, that's cool, but would you ever have come up with the combination of things that make up a song like Yoli, or, you know, one of these West African pieces that we played, like, you know, Kakilambe or Kuku, you know, I mean, you start getting into like just holding one part of that and playing, you know, gat gungoro, gat gungoro, gat gungoro, gat gungoro perfectly every time. That's another level of skill, and you don't realize it until you try it, until you do it, until you sit in an ensemble, you know. So you got to do that. You got to put yourself in the practice mode and get humbled and start at the bottom and build your way up. And then once you have a base, you know, you can do some fun things with it. But I definitely would encourage people to not just pick it up and just kind of start, you know, ding, 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 dinking around on it and hope something really cool comes out of it. You know, that's, to me, that's not the depth of it. The depth is when you study, and then you combine your study with your expressive, intuitive self, and the two come together and you make this something beautiful. You know?
Great advice. People would love to do what you do in terms of being on tour, playing the big festivals. What do you think it takes to become a successful performer at world-class concert and transformational festivals? Chops, drive, connections, luck, all of the above? I know it's different for everybody, but you know, share from your experience what you think it might take for somebody to attain that level of success.
Well, I think like with many things in life, there's a lot of different paths, you know, to that point. And, you know, knowing a lot of people in this you know, industry, in the music industry, and over many years, and touring with Lost at Last, and playing with Michael Franti, and seeing different, you know, and being in connection with different people that have grown their musical presence to a different level, and then seeing producers like Bass Nectar Lauren, who used to come and do little shows right here in Ashland, you know, and just, you know, we'd have like a little party right here, you know, and now he's like, you know, he's huge, you know, and his approach is very different than someone else's approach. So I think you can, you know, it's more about being connected authentically to what your passion is and what your path is, you know, and if you're somebody who really cares about each little bit of the music, like as a producer, you know, someone like Rab, someone like Doug Appling, Emancipator, you know. These guys spend incredible amount of time on each piece. It's like, you know, as you're going through the music, you're making a painting and you're painting each part of that painting exactly how you want it and just perfect. You just want it just like that. They do that all the way through the music so that it comes out to be something really refined and really special. And it becomes, you know, more of like, you know, a really trained ear listens to it and goes, oh yeah, that is the good stuff. But you don't necessarily have to do that to become the famous guy, you know, who's like, you know, or girl, whatever, who's at the kind of the podium or at the pinnacle, at the height of the pharaoh king of DJ hood, you know. A lot of people take music from other people, you know. They take a lot of other stuff and then they play that kind of mixed up or remixed or done things with it, you know, and they get a great dance party going, and you know, it's great. And I think in getting to that point, if you're the kind of person that's just striving to be this world-class DJ, you know, like I want to be like, you know, I want to be a famous international DJ figure. Well, you can just strive to that through connections. You can try to meet all the right people and have a, you know, decent shtick going that, you know, it's good and all that, or you can just passionately do your thing and drive it. And I think one of the things I learned from Rab was that his path isn't to just find the kind of cliche thing or the what's happening now thing, you know. It's not about dubstep, or it's not about trap, or it's not about anything else, like all these little like fads that come through. It's about Rab being Rab and doing Rab music. And even though his path is a longer road than some other people that I'm seeing kind of popping to the top, I think that what it does ensures a much longer path, a longer course. You're not going to like be connected to this fad, and when that fad's over, it's kind of over, you know what I mean? And I think there's, you know, you can go for the short-lived, the short-term, the quick fix and get there, or you can, you know, take your long path, and depending on timing and desire and luck, who knows, see where you get, you know.
Well, and that's just it. If you spend a number of years trying to attain something and you're not really following your passion, you're not being authentic to yourself and what you really love, then that's wasted time anyway. So
I agree.
It seems to me if you enjoy and you're really passionate about what you're doing, that's more likely to make those magnetic connections with people and take you where maybe even better than imagined what you could do.
Yeah, that's what I like. That just be true to your path. You know, live authentically, live true to your heart, and see where it takes you. You know.
Okay. Has your personal philosophy or spiritual outlook evolved as a result of being exposed to all that is offered in this festival culture that we've been talking about?
Yeah, I think it has. I think my foundation, though, for my own sort of spirituality, or you know, where the meaning is in life for me, really came through the practice of meditation. You know, which when I was 20, I just started going deeply into it. You know, I was living in Hawaii. I left Minnesota, where I grew up, and all that was, and just kind of got away from it all and lived in Hawaii for 7 months on the Big Island. And I started exploring meditation. My best friend at the time was deep into it. He was studying at Berkeley and got me interested, and I started just meditating like an hour 3 times a day, you know, just for a while. And I could meditate for 2 hours. I just sit and look at a candle and just use techniques to just get beyond what my thinking, planning mind, the mind that has all these aspects of it that are really tools to how to work in the world, but connected me to a deeper thing that was the me that's inside of all that. That's the awareness of me perceiving this life experience and experiencing life through time, observing that in a real way, you know, and the profundity that came with that, the kind of my care for life and for what this is, the gift of this experience, you know, being a conscious sentient human and having a deep realization that there's something really big happening, there's something really profound, and it's so much more than whatever my little mind can think of, and all the little things that I'm doing. And so I got that big, and I went into yoga. I went into, you know, this meditative practice where I spent a lot of time kind of as renouncing culture, and I, you know, went to Central America for 7 months and traveled just hitchhiking and busing all through all the different countries to the end of the road in Panama, and stayed on farms and helped people do whatever they were doing, you know. And in that, I really saw a lot in that experience too. A lot looking back at the United States and back at our culture and the capitalism and the greed, and seeing the kind of the fallout of all of our sort of, you know, high life falling down, all the garbage falling down into Central America, and seeing the havoc that it wreaked upon these people and what they were working with, and seeing like, oh my God, I felt like, you know, I was living in this kingdom where I couldn't see the outside world. I didn't see it. I thought everything was good. We had cars, and we've got video games and candy and movies, and everything's cool. I was doing life, you know, as a kid. And you know, when I really, really got it was when I went into other parts of the world and sat with these people who had nothing, and how happy they were, and how full of love they were, and they took me in, you know what I mean? They go up to this country, they wouldn't even get across the border, let alone if they were walking through town, someone could take them into their house and feed them and have them live there for a couple weeks. I was blown away, you know? So my depth of kind of global consciousness and, you know, kind of fearless internal self-exploration and, you know, my love of life, all of those things, they came before festivals for me. But when I got to the festivals, I was really able to feel more about, like, just like I was saying before, like expressing myself in a way, like, what am I in the world, and how can I just be that without feeling like I need to protect myself, or, you know, oh God, I can't quite do that, someone's gonna think that I'm not cool, or, you know what I mean? Everybody was sort of, hey man, you're awesome, I love you, you're great, I love you who you are, and oh wow, I can do that with these people, I can be who I am, and I can tell them that I love them for who they are. So, you know, I think getting to the festival culture has been a place to kind of remember myself and remember my community and remember where I sit within this bigger global tribe. And it's kind of like reaffirming for me, you know? And I don't have as much time anymore to sit and meditate for hours a day. I've got a lot of things going on. I'm more in an active phase of my life. I keep all that with me, but I use the kind of planning mind, my thinking mind, as a tool. And I think of it as a tool, and I try not to spend all my time there, you know what I mean? Knowing that it is a tool. We can get caught up in the tool and live in that space, you know, and stay with that all the time, but that's not really me. That's not really where I am and what I'm about. At the center, my heart core is that place where I'm sitting and I'm seeing life in a much bigger way, and knowing that I am moving through time and I am making you know, a decision about how am I going to express myself, because I'm like a flower here. I'm just like for a moment going to express myself. I'm gonna have a smell, I'm gonna have a look, and then I'm gonna fade, you know what I mean? So, but it's being able to see that and work with it without being all caught up in it, you know? That's what and I think the festivals, I mean, maybe it's a place of expression, excitement, openness, the friendship, the connectivity that happens, you know, keeping connected to this bigger global community. And now with things like Facebook and all the other things, you know, the things that tie into it all this social media, it's kind of like, it's a linking place for people that are all kind of like-minded, you know, sort of looking for this sort of expansive consciousness.
Do you feel that the proliferation of transformational festivals all over the planet right now contributes anything significant to the world at large? And if so, what? I think we talked about a little of this before the interview.
Yeah, I think it does. You know, and it's funny you bring this up because, you know, being at a lot of festivals, you know, I just was at Gem and Jam down in, you know, Tucson, Arizona. I was just out at Vision in Costa Rica. I was at the, you know, we played a set in Portland for the Inspire Truth, you know, with Elliot's, you know, beloved festival kind of New Year's party, which was really beautiful. And, you know, I find I go to these places and I'm there with these people who are all, you know, for transformation. They're really there to kind of move into this contained place where you've left sort of culture as you know it, you've left the mundane, you've left your everyday life, and you've kind of put all that aside and you show up at this spot, this festival, this container. And the producers and everybody have probably taken care of meeting with, you know, law enforcement, with regulations, with all these other things. They've kind of created this space where you can leave this other part of your life behind and enter this new realm and be free to express yourself and have interactions with people that you would never have. And, you know, like you were saying, you put your tent down somewhere and boom, there you are, just next to whoever. It's just, you don't know who your neighbors are going to be, so you make friends and everybody kind of just works it out together, you know? And I think there's a lot that happens on the level of sharing, interconnectivity, people, you know, comparing ideas, and, you know, people calling each other out, and, you know, really looking deeply at esoteric concepts and trying to find out what's the meaning of life, and, you know, what's the meaning of my life. And you've kind of like let go of all this other kind of stuff that you're always doing, the kind of, you know, the noise every day. You let it go and you come out, who am I, kind of thing, and you're free to express yourself however you want. You know, Burning Man is a perfect example of just like, be whoever you want to be in this moment right now, and so it provides that for you. The thing that I'm finding after being a part of these festivals, you know, for the last literally over 15 years, 16, 17 years of being a performer, you know, at festivals over all that time and being a part of them, is that I find a lot of people get infatuated with that experience, you know, with being at the festival, you know, and sometimes it is taking psychedelics, sometimes it's just, you know, partying, sometimes it's just being there to do the meditative, the yoga practices, whatever it is you're there to do. Maybe it's a combination of it all for the community, but you get there, you do that, and then you kind of go home, and then it's sort of like this place that you were, that's sort of out there, and you're excited for the next one, you know what I mean? Which I think is good, but what I want to see is that people take that energy, take that mindset, that freedom, that open expression, that friendship, that sharing concept, and a lot of the talks that we get into are about, let's make this place a better world. How do we bring this energy to the world? And that's what I want to see, is let's get it out of the container. When we leave the container, let's keep all that energy, all that love, all that feeling of strength in our nomadic international community. Let's bring that in the world and keep it with us, and let's walk back into the mundane. Let's walk back into this world around us that we feel like is just, God, it's full of laws and regulations and politics and, you know, suffering, all things. Let's bring this light back in there, and let's create real things, create real businesses that develop, you know, avenues of revenue that can be used to support projects that are important for the world. You know, create organizations, you know, bring people together to do some real work, so that we can start to create it outside. It's not just going to happen magically because we all had a transcendental experience. We go back to the world. We got to do some work. You know what I mean? It's kind of like you meditate. You go to the mountaintop. You see the path before you and where it's been. You know where it's been and where you're going. There's the town I live in. Then you leave the mountaintop. You come back into town. You say, "Hey, everybody, look what I saw." And they're like, "Yeah, that's cool. You saw that. That's cool. But did you remember that?" Da, 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 da? And pretty soon you're just walking back in town again, and you're having this talk with everybody else, and you remember the mountaintop. But if you want to get people there, might be able to bring them there. Some people can't get to the mountaintop. Some people won't come to the festival, you know what I mean? So how do we link the two things together? I think that's, in order to see how these transformational festivals will be more transformational for the world, we've got to bring that energy into a focus that does something in this world, you know, and sets up these little pockets of light and transformation in our own town, you know, with our own family.
I agree.
With people we don't know, you know, as well, you know, going out there to the store, going out to, you know, wherever. Choosing to bring people into your atmosphere and bring that energy, you know, with you.
So, is there anything you could share about yourself that people might find surprising?
Well, I mean, it's probably not surprising that I really love to climb trees. It's probably not surprising that I'm happily married to a wonderful lady. It's probably not, what would be surprising? It's probably surprising to people that I spend a lot of my time working on cancer, you know, treating cancer patients and helping them really field the path through their situation, you know, which is a lot of times a really scary situation, and working, you know, in collaboration with oncologists, with medical doctors, you know, with the patients and their families, and trying to come up with a really thoughtful, intelligent solution to move through, you know, this process. And some of it's dying, and some of it's finding a solution for living, and definitely a lot of it's finding a quality of life, you know, finding a way through it, finding grace, and helping people not make decisions that they're going to regret. That's a big part of my life that probably most people don't know that I do, you know. That I have a clinic that has about 1,000 different, you know, herbs and nutrients in it, you know, and that I have a huge dispensary. And
beautiful. What advice would you give to somebody wanting to follow a similar path? Now, I know you've got a number of paths, but if somebody said, "Hey, I want to do what you're doing," what advice would you give them?
That's a good question. I mean, the first thing I'd obviously say is, you know, just go inside yourself and find out what is it that feels the most fulfilling to you? What feels like the most meaningful for you? What is the most meaningful experience? What makes you feel like, oh my God, I'm so alive right now. You know, I feel so good doing this. This is what I want to do. Once you know what that is, then, you know, decide how you want to get it out to the world. And I think with the festival culture, there's, you know, there's vendors, there's clothing, there's crafts, there's food, there's art, there's painting, there's dance, there's, you know, artistic expression of all kinds, music, there's music production, there's being a part of the production teams, there's, you know, there's so many different aspects of what that culture is. If you want to be a part of it, find out what you do first and what you love to do, and then just go for it. Bring it out there and give it to people. And I think once you know what it is you want to do and you're settled in that, and then you step yourself towards it with all your being, you move forward, then the world answers you and says, "Oh yeah, that's what you're doing? Oh great, well we support you, and here, you know, here it is." And you find yourself in this world that's ready for what it is that you want to do. And, you know, that's the kind of the festival culture thing. But I think, you know, if you want to do kind of what I'm doing too, it's really a multi-dimensional kind of perspective where I want to ground in with people on the mundane level, just people. I want to network with folks at the bank. I want to network with folks in businesses. I want to be involved in film and expression that way. I want to be involved with medicine and people's health issues. I want to be involved with, you know, making sure there aren't GMOs in our valley. I want to get involved as well on this level, and have my artistic side, and then have my kind of more working side too. So I think just really knowing what you're passionate about and applying yourself to that is going to bring you right where you need to be.
Any last thoughts that you would like to share with our viewers?
There's so many thoughts, so many places to go. Well, I'm just really honored, really, to be a part of this community that I feel like is really, it's ever growing. It's incredibly supportive. You know, I always felt like I didn't really have a place. I felt like through high school especially, it was really hard for me to feel like I was where I was supposed to be, or who was I, or who's my group, or who's my crew, or where are my peeps. I didn't really know. So I kind of just tried to be friends with everybody, but I didn't have a very big network of really close friends. I had a few really close friends. And when I got out of high school and kind of let go of a lot of what I thought I was or what I was supposed to be, and coming out to the West Coast and coming to festivals and coming in, you know, the Tenasket Barter Fair for me was an early festival that was just so, wow, like people could just be whoever they were, and I could be me, and everybody would love me for it and not judge me, or, you know what I mean? And just, God, I really just want to like say how honored and thankful I am to have a space that's supportive for me to be me. And, you know I have my own issues, my own stuff, my own faults and shortcomings, you know, and I feel like a lot of people accept those and don't judge me, you know, for who I am, you know, and I just think it's a wonderful thing to have that in this life.
It's a gift.
It is a gift.
Well, thank you. I think that's it.
Is that good?
I think so.
Cool. Yeah! Yeah!
Yeah.